Do I know the wisdom of my own country, tradition, custom of India? There is some part of Chanakya which is very relevant, which I call the principles. They don't change with time. First of all, Chanakya would say a leader should have the quality of Anvikshiki. What is Anvikshiki? I'm sure for many of you it's a new word. Anvikshiki is the ability to think deeply. So the generation that we are talking about, the future leaders, should not think Indian, but from Indian values build a global company.
A very warm welcome to Policy Talks, and we have in this episode Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. Dr. Pillai is an authority on Chanakya. A lot of people say that he's a new avatar of Chanakya, and I'm here with today's, his new book called 10 Best Sutras of Chanakya. But we'll talk about this slightly later, and we will get into a little bit of conversations of Chanakya today, and how is this making sense for today's public policy and for the businesses around. So, welcome, Dr. Pillai. Let me start with the very basic questions of how did you get interested in this particular subject? And you've written 21 books on Chanakya. How did it all happen?
When I was doing my first business, which is a company called Atma Darshan, which is focused on spiritual tourism, I was thinking, why am I only applying the Western concepts of management? Nothing wrong, it's good. I think the world is one family, and we should take the best from everywhere. But do I know the wisdom of my own country, tradition, custom of India? So management is something that our country has known for ages. So I said, I want to understand Indian leadership and management model. So I started studying a lot when I became an entrepreneur. I came across this book called Kautilya's Arthashastra. So I studied 6,000 sutras, not for any academic job or purpose, but to be applied in my own company. And Anjal sir, you'll be surprised, the kind of a success I got in my own business was mind-boggling. But then what happened, when I was talking to my friends, they said, okay, where were you in between? Because I had gone to the Gurukul. I had gone to study Arthashastra of Kautilya or Chanakya. Oh, can you come to my company and give a lecture? I said, okay, I never say no. So I started training and advising some of the biggest companies in India. And suddenly people started saying, oh, you speak well, can you write? That's how my first book, Corporate Chanakya, came in. And then the journey has not been stopping at all. It's been a wonderful journey.
So let's go a little further, because one thing which we are looking at is someone who was born 2,500 years before. How is this person so relevant in today's time? What is that is there in Chanakya that all of us talk about, though very less studied in a business school like this? But tell us, what are the things that makes him so relevant in today's time?
So there are two things. Number one, many parts of Chanakya's wisdom is not relevant. So let me tell you, for example, if you look at policy, we are in part of policy talks. See, policy is always made for a particular time period and for a generation. Yet, there is some part of Chanakya which is very relevant, which I call the principles. They don't change with time. So in the same way, I would say Chanakya's principles are relevant even today. But many of the strategies, policies may not be. So I would say take the best and leave the rest.
So, when in the policy talks, we are also looking at what are the things that we can learn from our ancient Indian texts, especially for today's public policy. So can you just tell us 1, 2, 3 things that you think is very important for us to adhere to?
Absolutely. So if you look at the policy which is relevant today, so I would say the 3 things that matters. Number 1 is what is called, from a governance perspective, leadership. So Chanakya focuses on leadership. But a good leader without a good administration is also a problem. If we look at the whole machinery of the government. So second thing which is relevant is good administration. Good leader with good administration. The third thing which is very important is that what we call your consumer feedback. Is the people happy in that system?
Let's go a little slightly on the business front, and you have been a corporate trainer as well. And what has been the response, especially for some of the big corporate that you have been training? What are you training on them on? What works there for you?
So 3 stages. Stage number 1 is awareness. Stage number 2 is what we call sampling. And stage number 3 is what we call scaling up. So I'll tell you, when I started with Chanakya, people said, during those days, I'm talking about almost 20 years ago, is Chanakya relevant today? And I said, okay, but I have to create awareness. What it did is that I was my own sample. Because when I started using these principles in my own business, I could see the numbers growing. Then, okay, it's I'm saying, okay, the principles worked in your company. Can it work in a manufacturing unit? So I had to work with them, and slowly over a period of time, I built up this testimonial that Chanakya is relevant.
Yeah.
But then comes the current day challenge which I'm going through, that how do you scale it up? So my challenge currently is that I can't be the only teacher of Chanakya. You can be the one, and those who are listening, learn Chanakya and become teachers, because the demand and supply, the curve is very different now. So much demand, less supply of teachers. So learn Chanakya and become a teacher of Chanakya is my request.
That's very interesting. But what is that you applied in your business that had helped in expanding it? Just tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so many, but I'll tell one of them. So there's a concept called, if you want to scale up your business, go into a partnership model. Now, this concept that comes, there's a Saptanga model in Chanakya, and one of the very important pillars is called Mitra. So coming back to the point that one concept I'm only talking about, there are many other things that apply, that having the right person on the board as an advisor can make the big difference. So I can see the difference before Chanakya, applying Chanakya, and look at where we are right now.
Yeah. What are things that Indian leaders now should take into account, especially the young and budding leaders who graduate from ISB or similar schools in India? What is that your advice will be for them?
But the reality is that we are already global business leaders. So my suggestion to all the current business leaders and whomever I meet, I tell them, why are you thinking India? You should think global. Because globally you have been looked upon. Now coming back to the next generation who is currently,
the young generation
and the students, I don't think you should start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start from 5 to 10. So now the advice that I give to them is that, your corporate office should be in New York. And believe me, I have actually students who have done that. So the first office was launched in actually UK. So the generation that we are talking about, the future leaders, should not think Indian, but from Indian values, build a global company.
Chanakya is also very famous for its Danda Niti, right? So then you've been speaking about it for very often. And that means this whole thing of Samdan, Danda Bhed, that has been applied in many places. How do we solve today's social problems when it comes to Chanakya's Arthaniti?
First of all, Chanakya would say a leader should have the quality of Anvikshiki. What is Anvikshiki? I'm sure for many of you it's a new word. Anvikshiki is the ability to think deeply. What we call root cause analysis. So in one situation, Sama would work, other situation, Dana would work, Danda, Bheda, all that. No? So your strategies. So that is where strategic thinking in Chanakya comes in. If we can solve the problem, I should. If not, I look at the problem as an opportunity.
So coming back to your, the recent book called the 100 Best Sutras of Chanakya, right? How have you been so productive? What is something that we can learn from you? You have not written anything on this kind of subject.
So there are two words in management. One is productivity. One is efficiency. You have to be efficiently productive. The good part is that I was already educated in the Chanakya field. The research was done. Because I have a PhD, gold medal, etc. But what is happening? Can you write it down? It's a skill. So I developed the skill. I developed my capacity. The efficiency grew. And now, imagine this is my 22nd book. I'm writing 4 more simultaneously.
So tell us now about this book, 100 Best Sutras of Chanakya. What are the best sutras that's close to your heart, and what is that you can tell us, especially in a business school and policy school environment?
So Jaco came to me and they said, you have to write 1 more book. So, yes, sir. Why not? So what do you do? Why don't you write the next book? You select the 100 best sutras. So I selected that, and let me tell you, it was very difficult, sir, because 6,000 may say you have to bring down 100. And then you'll be surprised. The beauty of this book is that this 100 sutras are converted into 100 short chapters. You can read the whole chapter, each chapter in only 1 minute. So I would say a lot of things, but the plan is that this book already has crossed the bestseller list, doing extremely well globally, thanks to friends like you also.
But tell us 5 sutras that is, out of this 100 sutras that you think is relevant for us.
Praja sukhe sukham rajnah prajanam cha hite hitam. Okay, that's very powerful. So what is in the happiness of the people and what is for the benefit of the people the leader should do. The second, which is my favorite, is Saptanga model. Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitra. It's a complete governance model. The third is very important, that a leader can never succeed without his team. The fourth one is the ability to navigate in difficult times. So it's a very interesting work that comes in Arthashastra, Apata Kala, Upaya. And the fifth and my favorite, finally you have to make money. Artha eva pradhana, because all this activity, operation is good. But I'll tell you, businessmen have to be wealth creators.
True.
See, please understand, profit is one part of it. But did you create wealth through activity?
That's very good. So that that brings us to an end of our policy talks, and I would request all of our listeners as well as our viewers to buy this book, 100 Sutras of Chanakya by Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. And thank you so much for coming here and talking to us. And it's wonderful to have met you. Thank you so much.
It's an honor, sir.
Thank you so much.